YouTube? It is the Allegheny Northern in N scale, and we're back with another ScaleTrains haul here. And I was at a crossroads because the SD40-2s just came in, and they're beautiful. I love them. You saw that video. But they also released their latest run of coil cars, their new finger rack flat cars, and their bulkhead cars. And man, I just was really torn between, do I wait and spread out some of those sales, or do I just get them knowing that I'm gonna get them anyway? And well, you can see the answer right here. And this is sort of indicative of the modeling sort of landscape as it is today, and that is, it doesn't seem like things are coming out in the quantities that they were, and so that if you want something, you basically better grab it while you can, because yeah, you might find it at a train show, yeah, you might find it at your favorite hobby shop in a few months' time, but basically, if you're looking for it, there's a whole lot of other modelers that are looking for it too, and it seems like there can be slim pickings on some of the more unique pieces, let's say. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and open these things up and lay them out for you. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on the coil cars because we've gone through those before, both the 42 and the 48 cars. So let's talk about the finger rack flats and the bulkhead flats. Model. The first one we're going to take a look at here. Now, you understand that the finger cars, the finger rack cars, and the bulkhead flats are essentially the same car, right? It's a 60-foot flat car. And it's just a matter of what is on that 60-foot flat car. So let's start here in the front and just kind of work our way back. So awesome detail here on the car. Everything is separately applied. You've got fantastic, all these extra brake hoses, and I don't say extra, they're extra for if you're putting them on yourself, but you've got all this fine brake detail here. You do have metal wheels. They are the low profile for the code 50, 55, 55. That's stuff that I don't like, but nice crisp detail on the decals and the printing here. You can see that they've got the place where stakes would go, where you would also wrap in your tie downs. It's kind of sort of in focus. There we go. And then you've got your separately applied grabs. You can see that I can get my tweezers behind them. Brake wheel. And then, of course, as you come to the back, you can see that the cut lever detail is there. You've got your air hose. That air hose detail, which, if I can show you right here, actually extends from the portion of the car here where it would, the joint, and then it actually runs all the way back here, and then it connects into the brake hose of the car. So it's just like the real thing, which is what you expect from your scale models. And then you've got your steel deck, and this would be, you would put either wood in here. This would be for supporting the load, so these channels up here would help do that. And then you would your load on this would be, could be steel pipe, could be steel rebar, something that you would not want to shift around while you're in motion. And so there are 3 of those. I've got one with the black TTX logo, and then I've got one here with the red TTX logo. So when you are purchasing these, be cognizant that there are multiple logo options, and make sure you get the one that you'll want. Obviously, these cars need a little bit of weathering and a little bit of grime on them because they are pristine at the moment. And I know I didn't mention it, but of course they have the ScaleTrains couplers on the end. And for those of you who are wondering, I don't mind those couplers because they are microtrains compatible. So, that's basically what matters to me, is can I hook it up to microtrains? Does it hook to the rest of the cars that I have? So The answer to that is yes. The only thing that I have found with these is because they do have the exposed spring on the outside. They're not the only ones that do, but if your cars get jostled around a bit, those springs can pop off, and then the coupler, it works, but not real well. And if it falls off on your layout or somewhere in your training room, good frickin' luck finding it because it is microscopic. But I have found that the replacement springs for the microtrains couplers, if you can't find this exact spring, those springs do work. So don't ask me how I know, but just trust me, they work. Okay, same flat car, but now we're going with the center, with the bulkhead style, and you get the nice wood detail there. I don't know if you can see that, but it actually has the wood grain on it. A little bit of staining would bring that out real nice, and you could really make that look cool. And then back here, right here, you've got the wood batter board here on the back. And of course, once again, you've got your TTX printing. There we go, got it in focus. And you've got all of your air hose detail on the bottom. And then here on the ends, there's your bulkhead detail. Of course, everything is separately applied. You have your etched metal pieces, and then you've got your warnings on the back of the car there. Try to get them in focus, maybe, sort of. Yeah, you can almost read it. So if that was going to focus, it does say that chains must be stowed in floor pockets. That seems like an odd place to put that, but that is where that logo is. This one is exactly the same car, and then of course I have one in this oxide red color, and it's pretty cool looking because it stands out a little bit, but it's got the different logo on it here. It's got the speed logo for TTX, and yeah, just nice looking cars. Then of course, I said we weren't going to spend a whole lot of time with these, but I've got the two more of the coil cars. Comes off, got the coils inside. You do have to put the stickers on. I'll call them stickers. They're decals, but they're self-adhering, and you need to put them on the ends as well. And you need to put the center cross beams on, so that will come separate. Make sure it's in your box, and then you can go ahead and throw that on. And then of course I did get two of them because that now replaces the Atlas. So now that you've seen the cars, let's do a quick comparison of their microtrains line and Atlas. Okay, so first things first, let's take a look at some basic flat car. This is an old Athearn car that I have, and it's been sitting on the lumber spur. Basic car, nothing real exciting about it. It's got minimal detail underneath. It's got a nice deck on it. So this is it's one of those few times when one man can complement another man's deck. And if you weathered this up, which I haven't, this deck is pretty nice, but it does, it's plastic. It's nothing crazy, but it's got some good texture on it, and you can make it look like beat up wood. And it's got the Athearn trucks and couplers, which I frickin' hate, but this was never one of the cars that was a high priority to replace. And so when you place it next to, and I understand it's a size difference here in car, but when you place it next to the ScaleTrains car, and I'm going to get my thumb out of the way here so you can see it, obviously you get an idea of the difference in detail that you're getting. And I recognize that I'm looking at two different cars from two different eras, and so bear with me here a little bit, but this car still would need brake hose detail. It would still need all of the underbody framing, and so that's the kind of differences that I'm talking about. This car works just fine. It tracks just well. It couples for shit because of the couplers that are on it, but I mean it runs. It's fine, and it looks good on a spur. And it is probably going to get sold because it doesn't meet this kind of standard. Okay, let's take a look This one is, I know I did this on a previous video, but this is the Atlas coil car. And it is not a bad car at all. Actually, it's a really nice car. And from Atlas, it was reasonably priced. I believe, I think it was around 20 some dollars. So not a bad car at all. And I'm not gonna crap all over this thing because it's a good car. It does not have the same level of detail that the ScaleTrains does, and this is one of the few Atlas cars that actually has etched metal. The etched metal on the ScaleTrains is a little finer, and I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. Once again, you have the ability to remove the hoods on this car, which is nice, and you've got a bit more brake detail underneath. In general, Atlas did not do a bad job on these cars, so I don't want you to think that I'm suggesting that. They're not bad cars. I haven't decided yet if they are going on the cell block or if I'm holding them, but you know, if you end up with the Atlas cars over the ScaleTrains cars, I don't think you're going to be too disappointed. They're nice cars. You don't get the ability to take the coils out, so if that means anything to you, or you want the ability to run them with the shield off and you wouldn't really want to run it exposed load, but if you would run it empty, you don't get that with the Atlas. So that might mean something to you. Okay, microtrains line. I like microtrains. So this is actually one of the first bulkhead flats that I purchased. The first difference I think is obvious. It is in the deck, and so I'm going to just kind of turn you over here a little bit. You can see that this is just a molded on deck. You can actually see the injection points where they molded on, injected the plastic, and they do make a deck for this that you can replace that with, but yeah, so it's a pretty big difference there. Once again, we go underneath. It's got minor detail that you would expect on a microtrains. It does not have that level of detail, and if that matters to you, there's no brake hose detail. There's no, here on the end, you don't have etched metal walking platforms and stuff like that. And I recognize that not all bulkhead flats had that, but still, there's definitely a difference here. So this is not a bad car. It runs great. Really, I've had it forever, but it's not gonna stand up against a ScaleTrains. It's just not going to do it. And so this car does go on the selling block, just because the whole purpose of me getting these was to replace these. So a car like this that new might have gone for 2025 is now replaced by a car that I got for, I think, 31, and I'm getting a whole lot more detail. You can see here that I've got the grabs and the rungs here, but they are molded on as opposed to separately applied, and it's just a night and day difference. So that was just to give you a little bit of an idea of what you're doing. These are the Walthers cars that I replaced with microtrains trucks, but that detail goes even down further. There's no detail here on the end of the bulkhead. There's minimal printing on the side. Everything's molded in place, and there's even less detail underneath. Now, once again, in a large train, sitting on somewhere where you're not necessarily at eye level, this kind of car, not a big deal. And I understand that we're looking at different cars here. So maybe this car didn't have a wood deck. Maybe it just had a steel deck, and so you have to take that into consideration too. That this is a thick deck as opposed to this, which is a lot thinner. So maybe this was for something that was a little bit heavier, and take that into consideration when you're purchasing your rolling stock too. What are you using it for? General service car like this, is gonna have a different weight capacity than something that was specifically designed for a heavy industry. So, but There's some good examples of some different cars that are on the railroad, and that are varying levels of detail. Now, to get this model up to close standard with here, they do make extra parts you could probably get within 70%, I would say. So it's something to consider in the future, that if you wanted to get a car like this, and eventually upgrade it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And if that's where your funding is, then that's not a bad way to go at all. Okay, so that is the ScaleTrains finger rack flat cars, coil cars, and their new bulkhead flat cars. And just because we always do real talk here, wanted to let you know that the cars that you see now running nice and smooth as they are, not how they ran out of the packaging. And I did have to do a little bit of work to them, and actually it's kind of silly work. So the first thing was, the screws that hold the trucks on were extremely tight, and as a result, the trucks couldn't pivot on the flat cars or the bulkhead flat cars, and that resulted in derailments pretty much everywhere. So I loosened the screws up to give them just a smidgen of wobble, and that took care of the problem. The other issue I had related to the trucks was that the air hoses underneath were actually in the, and this wasn't on all the cars, this was only on 3 of the 6, were actually in the way of the truck path. It looked like they hadn't been bent into place correctly at the factory, and so they just needed bent back and small amount of super glue in place to hold them out of the way. So I know, shouldn't have to do it, but had to do it, and now that I did it, they are running fantastically. Okay, so despite needing a small amount of tinkering to get them working the way they should, ScaleTrains has produced some absolutely beautiful models that I'm happy to have on the layout. They are running fantastic now, and they're sitting here going around the layout and no issues. So I do enjoy having them. I hope this was helpful for you, and if you do get yourself a set of these and you come up with the same kind of issues, you know how to fix it now. But they are beautiful cars, and probably going to add a few more to the fleet.